This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Hindu.
The abductors of the kidnapped 13-year-old boy are found. They're identified as engineering and business graduates known to the family. Meanwhile, Amma uses the incident to strike her enemies, blames the DMK's soft approach for such increasing crimes in the state. The state government declares free swine flu nasal sprays to all enrolled under the Kalangner Health Insurance Scheme. 4 new courts make the Madras High Court home in a bid to try the burgeoning thousands of cases in the state.
Many cases are pending in High Court. Many proposals are pending in government.
As the Dravidian biggies set up their fired-up battle over Kaveri, the helpless farmers are left in the lurch alongside their overflowing sorrows. The curse of the stinking city sewage dries up a potential tourist spot in the heart of Chennai. Residents feel helpless. Goddess Lakshmi rolls out the carpet of brands and luxurious gifts for the tech gurus in town. Welcome to the late night news on NDTV Hindu with me, Evelyn Matthew. Let's also take a look at the rest of the day's national news. Ahead of Barack Obama's visit to India, big ticket items are on the agenda, but his permanent Security Council seat may be difficult, says the president. But it's been a drubbing for Democrats in the midterm polls. It's the biggest swing since 1948. Indian-American Nikki Haley wins South Carolina to become the first minority governor in the state's history. The Navy says it never gave an NOC to the Adarsh Society. Documents indicate the state government cashed in on cargo. And former cricketers of the Indian team are set to contest the Karnataka State Cricket Association polls. Mission accomplished. That was the message from the Chennai police headquarters this morning as a jeep with the 2 kidnappers of the schoolboy drove in. The duo are well educated and are related to an employee of the boy's father. Our crime reporter Salim brings us an account of how this kidnapping case was cracked.
As soon as 13-year-old Kirti Vasan was returned to his parents safe and sound, the Chennai police went all out to nab these 2 kidnappers. With all the top cops of the city on a massive hunt to bring them to justice, it's no wonder then that these 2 graduates were caught within 48 hours of launching the operation. 2 men in their late 20s caught red-handed with a ransom amount for which they kidnapped the young schoolboy.
But storming operation நாங்க எடுக்கல பண்ணல ஏன் பண்ணலன்னா பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சா அவங்க தெரிய வந்து ஏதாவது பயணம் பண்ணிட்டாங்கன்னா பிரச்சனை ஆயிடும்ன்றதுக்காக நாங்க பண்ணல ஒண்ணு.
The police deployed 35 to 40 teams to catch these criminals. The modus operandi of the men in khaki. When the boy's father met the criminals to pay a ransom of 1 crore rupees on Tuesday, the police placed a spy cam on the father's shirt to get the pictures of the 2 men. As the jeep with the 2 kidnappers drove in and the money paid to them recovered, Kirti Vasan's parents are a relieved lot. They say they put their entire trust on the team that worked tirelessly to rescue their son.
Entire police team was with me. எனக்கு எப்படி பண்ணனும்னு சொல்லி இந்த பண மேட்டர்ல வந்து எனக்கு பையன் வந்து வேணும் அப்படிங்கறதல அவங்களும் தான் இருந்தாங்க. என்னோட குறிக்கோள் அதான் இருந்தது. இவ்வளவு பணம் கொடுக்க வேணாம்னு சொன்னாங்க. பட் எனக்கு வந்து பையனோட லைஃப் முக்கியம் அப்படிங்கறதனால நான் அவன்கிட்ட பேசிட்டே இருந்தேன். பட் எல்லாமே வந்து இவங்க டாக்டிக்ஸ் எப்படி பண்ணனும் அப்படிங்கறத அவங்க சொல்லி கொடுத்தாங்க. அதுபடி தான் நான் பண்ணேன்.
The focus now is to ensure that such incidents are avoided in future. In Chennai, with Salim, Shabir Ahmed for NDTV Hindu.
Well, it's almost like a movie, right? And it's not the first time that educated youngsters are slipping into criminal ways. Our reporter Shabir Ahmed traces the emerging pattern of crime in the region.
Two young graduates, one with an MBA from the UK, another who has worked in Singapore for a few years. These are not profiles you would normally associate with criminals, but their ambition of making a fast buck by kidnapping this 13-year-old kid has now landed them in jail. If this incident has sent a chill down the spine of many a parent, well, there is more. This gruesome murder in KK Nagar was committed by a BCom graduate. And what's even more shocking is this: Balaji killed his own mother over a property dispute. It's not just kidnapping and murder. A 23-year-old graduate from Pollachi was arrested recently for posting obscene pictures of his female classmate on the internet. Look at this group of white-collar criminals arrested recently for credit card fraud. The group managed to make 100 online transactions. What is more chilling though is the fact that many of these young criminals come from upper middle class families where their parents have little time to find out what they are up to. These incidents are just the tip of a very cold iceberg. Just some incidents to show exactly how the degree of white-collar crime is going up by the day. With the crime rate among graduates on the rise, the big question now is whether this is a fallout of unemployment or just plain old greed. In Chennai, Shabir Ahmed for NDTV Hindu.
Well, our executive editor Sanjay Pinto was joined by a former Vice-Chancellor of the Anna University and a criminal lawyer, and he posed the big question: educated criminals fall out of unemployment or just plain greed? And here were some of the answers.
Joining us on the big question is the man himself in the hot seat, Mr. T. Rajendran, Commissioner of Police of Greater Chennai. Sir, thank you very much for sparing time to join us on the news tonight and on the big question. Sir, educated people indulging in crimes. Are you really shocked, sir, that is this an emerging trend in the city now?
I won't say an increase, but now it's not too uncommon to come across criminals who are educated, especially as I've been saying in earlier press meets also. For example, if we take murders for gain, we find most of the time it is somebody known to the family. It could be either a relative or a friend or somebody who's been met at a party or something like that. And these are people who come from a good status in life. It's not that they are very poor or anything like that, but maybe circumstances drive them to commit such crimes.
All right, sir. Now, how challenging is it for the police? Because these are first-timers in many cases. Obviously, they don't leave behind footprints. So how challenging is it to actually get these cases? It's one thing to say that they are not professional criminals, but then perhaps it's a lot more difficult to hunt down these criminals who are perhaps doing this for the first time or making their debut in crime, as it were.
Yes, because see, earlier, maybe about 30-40 years back, we knew who the criminals were. In the sense, there were some gangs going around committing offences here and there, and there were some tribes also doing it. But now what is happening is we don't know where a criminal lurks. And I get the feeling that sometimes out of sheer desperation, some people turn into criminals.
So the fact that he has managed to get into Anna University, gone through a rigorous entrance examination, studied, completed his course there, which is not too easy anyway, and then finally to gravitate towards crime, sir, is a disgrace, one would say. It's a disgrace to the institution itself. It's a different matter. The institution cannot be blamed, but he has brought shame on the institution itself.
No, there are many factors that we have to take into account. These days, even the admission process we have liberalized.
So you're saying that you've completely diluted standards, so even the riffraffs can get in,
Yes, because the minimum marks that are expected for a graduate to enter into these things, for a student to enter into Anna University, we had certain minimum eligibility that has been diluted now. So therefore, the students with poor quality, they also enter into the system. And in addition to that, many of the students, they pay a heavy capitation fee and enter into
right. So which means that's like an investment. In order to repay that money, maybe some of them have taken loans also to pay the capitation fee. They would take to crime to repay that.
I don't say it is repay. In order to recover whatever they have lost, so they resort to this kind of crimes.
Okay.
So this is a quick money-making business.
It was sheer greed. Let's not even hold a brief remotely for these people who are accused of this heinous crime, because Clearly, it seems to be a case of greed, asking for 1 crore. In fact, they asked for 3 crore rupees and then whittled that down to 1 crore. They bargained and brought that down. And the way they even operated, they put the little boy in the boot of the car. Absolute cruelty exhibited here in this case. And of course, they were opportunists. Again, crime happens when there's an opportunity. The need and opportunity, but in this case they seem to have been out to, because one person was already working there in Singapore, so he's probably earned money there as well. So it's only to probably fund their indulgences, to live beyond their means for wine and other and booze perhaps and drugs, that they probably did this, Selvi.
It's not only, see, greed, yes, definitely if the sum is bigger, it may be greed, but what really drives them, then something we need to look into their mindset. I'm not looking at just these two gentlemen, I'm just looking at all the people, not just people who indulge in such kind of offences. We hear and see reports of students taking to, small pilfering or just to get electronic gadgets, fancy electronic gadgets. So it is the whole question of, possessing something. So it's a peer pressure. Then it's a question of settling their loans. Maybe we never know. Everybody who's in Singapore doesn't come back with loads of Singaporean dollars. We know the kind of migrant labor status out there. I'm not holding a brief for them, but what I'm trying to say is, when you have such incidents happening repeatedly, we had some days ago the Coimbatore thing, sometimes before the Kodungayur incident, all these when we look at, we need to be looking at the education system itself. The system should not only give quality education, these men and women should not only come out with degrees, but come out with,
let's definitely not call them, gentlemen at all, far from it.
Well, the top cop of the city too, Mr. Rajendran there, talking about how such crimes are becoming a trend of late. Well, still ahead on the bulletin, find out what happens when Zoya Thomas puts the HD phono dock to a gentleman's racing heart.